All right. Well, it looks like we're about ready to go ahead and kick this thing off. I want to first thank everyone for taking the time to meet with us today. We're really excited to have you on. My name is Jordan Kinski, and I'm joined by Eric Tversland, and we're with Ops Analytica. Today, we're going to be doing a webinar that will talk about some ways that restaurants can reduce operational expense without sacrificing quality. Today's webinar is a part of a webinar series that we're doing here at Ops Analytica to help provide resources and information to our restaurant partners and other people in the restaurant industry in the hopes of helping you guys combat and fight, the troubles and times that we're in due to, the COVID crisis that we're dealing with. Today, we're going to be presenting information specifically on how we can help you guys implement technology to help make your field team more efficient and thus allow you guys to reduce the overall size of that field team to help you guys cut back on operational expense as we kind of head into this uncharted territory. This meeting today is recorded, so if any of you feel uncomfortable being recorded, feel free to jump off and we'll plan on sending out this webinar later to everyone. Additionally, we do want to hear from you as we move through this presentation, so feel free to use the chat feature on the right-hand side of the screen, chat us questions, comments. We'll try to pepper those in through the presentation. If not, certainly go over them at the end. So examining the landscape that we're currently in today, we're currently dealing with a problem, and that's, COVID-19 is rapidly changing the way that we do business today. Looking at other kind of past epidemics and past crises, it's likely to expect that this will continue and that we will have change and innovation that kind of come out of this event, and most likely change and innovation for the better. So just dealing with the landscape that we're in today, we're seeing restaurant sales are declining. The government is mandating that you switch to a takeout, delivery, curbside, drive-through, pickup strategy because your dining rooms can't be open. Likely, this is going to continue into the foreseeable future, even when the economy opens back up, because fear and social responsibility will keep people to kind of stay cautious and keep at a distance. So just looking at kind of past events, 9/11 reshaped the way that we traveled. It certainly didn't prevent people from flying, but it definitely changed the security that went along with it. And then, looking at other past epidemics, it definitely changed society for the better through other past epidemics in human history, like cholera and, the Spanish flu. We got things like indoor plumbing and, cities became cleaner. So moving along in that same kind of thought process, what does this mean for restaurants today? And looking at some of these trends and how will these trends impact my business today and into the future? Well, you're definitely going to see something like less personal contact sticking around today and into the future. You're going to see people moving more towards mobile ordering and mobile payments. Likely as a restaurant operations, you're going to shift your support center to working from home. So, your field team and other restaurant support people will likely continue to do their jobs from home. And this is all going to be possible with a reliance on technology, even things like, Zoom or GoToMeeting and systems like Ops Analytica will really be able to help restaurant organizations manage their locations more effectively, but still at a distance. So saying all that, it left us at Ops Analytica to ask ourselves a question like, well, how are restaurants supposed to survive with all these, changing and evolving trends and, the changing landscape that we're in right now? And we kind of answer that question with two ways, right? Like restaurants can survive today by focusing on increasing sales, or they can look at ways to cut costs. In today's presentation, we're going to be focusing on the latter. You can definitely look to cut costs by creating operational efficiencies, like implementing a program like Ops Analytica. Likely, you're going to look to ways to keep most of your staff in place because if and when the economy opens back up, it may be more expensive to rehire everyone and open up a new restaurant than trying to do everything that you can to keep those staff employed. You could also look at limiting menu items and focusing on higher margin items as you kind of shift more towards a takeout and delivery strategy and trying to focus on menu items that travel well and meet customer expectations. So with all that being said, today we want to focus on how we're going to create operational efficiencies using Ops Analytica specifically related to the field team. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Eric and let him dive into a little bit of this information.
Okay, yeah. So we'll focus on the field teams who feel there's a big opportunity there to save some money. And so real quick, we're just going to look at the field team as it exists today or, pre-pandemic. And, our field teams today are working on operations stuff, selling, and they're doing that by visiting the locations. Now that section there, the bottom left, will have to change going forward because we're going to have to limit the amount of times we visit these locations. And, the historical effectiveness of the field teams, varies based on organization and how they are being utilized and how effective they are. But the one common aspect of it is that they tend to be pretty expensive, salaries, overhead, and they travel a ton. And there's a lot of time that's wasted when they travel, and there's travel expenses associated with that. So we'll go look at what our solution is that we are proposing. And by the way, we will set this up for you for free, and we'll talk more about that at the end. So, next slide, Jordan. So the solution, how does that look? Simple. Have your field teams work from home. Limit the amount of exposure they have to restaurant employees and customers. Now, we can't just have them disconnect from their restaurants, so we're going to implement technology to enable them to work from home efficiently and arguably be more efficient than they were on the road all the time. And so you're going to be able to do these things and reduce staff at the same time, the size of your field team, and still become more efficient. So the process of how we implement this is this slide here, this constant feedback loop, which just starts with digitizing your self-inspection. And this gets done weekly by location managers. It doesn't have to be something that's long or takes a lot of time or a huge burden, but we're now going to push that work down to the location manager. They'll do it weekly on a schedule, and we'll gather this data. That data becomes available to above store leaders, namely the area manager. They can go ahead and schedule a recurring weekly meeting where they review this stuff. So note now they're meeting weekly. And so depending on your organization, you might only visit your stores currently once a quarter or once a month. Now we can get that into a weekly communication and interaction with your location. So you're actually going to see that you probably can communicate with them more and have a better relationship, although it being remotely. Then out of those meetings is going to come coaching, action plans, process changes, and then this just keeps going on week after week. So how are we going to do all of this and reduce our field teams by 25% at the same time? That sounds crazy. But if you look at it, we're just taking the time that they're wasting traveling, and we've talked to customers today that have local area managers, meaning they're just driving. They're wasting about 10 hours per week behind the wheel, just driving to and from locations, which is unproductive time. Now, if you have a bigger patch and you're traveling by air, that number goes up. Or you're just requiring these employees to put in an insane amount of hours. So by taking that time from the travel bucket, moving it into a productivity bucket of time, we're able to spend more time with the locations, provide coaching. We have visibility from all the data that they're giving us on a weekly basis through these self-inspections with pictures and comments and additional information. We're now using, if you're spending an hour per meeting, that 10 hours, now you can do 10 extra meetings, meet with 10 extra locations per week. So really just working off of that time. Now you take that 10 extra locations per week that you can meet with, you kind of extrapolate that out and see how many field team members do you actually need. And so with this increased communication, the remote visibility, what happens? We have better compliance from a food safety and brand standards perspective, because we're able to provide real-time corrective action and coaching because we're more involved, although being remotely. We're driving accountability, and we're able to change behavior and drive good behavior at the location level, because now the location managers are conducting these self inspections, and they're catching their own mistakes and fixing them in real time. So we're also transferring this knowledge. And so it's pretty simple, and we feel that, you know, in this time, it's a good area, an easy area to go in and shave off some expenses to get through this time. But we do feel that once we come out of this, you might stick with this model going forward.
So with all that being said, Ops Analytica wants to do everything we can to help our fellow restaurant industry folks survive this time. And so really what we're offering is the ability for you guys to leverage this technology today at absolutely no cost to you. We'd be happy to set up your site and self-evaluation so that your GMs can go through and answer those questions so that the field team can review it remotely. We'll help get this up and running for you guys. In addition to setting up that process for you, the Ops Analytica team is also offering a number of other free resources that restaurant groups can access today so they can run through a free risk assessment tool, which will help to identify potential areas in the front of house that have high touch points and maybe help you guys identify some areas that you can sanitize more frequently to help during this time. We'll also offer you guys a free employee health screening checklist or questionnaire that a GM or employee could go through to just ask them general questions about their health. And then walk them through any kind of corrective action that needs to be taken at that point in time. That checklist could integrate with thermometers if you wanted to start taking employee temps and stuff like that. Message us if you have questions about that. Additionally, you guys can also go through and have access to a resource that provides information on new guidelines for better practices on front of house sanitation. So if you're interested in getting any of this stuff started and want to leverage this technology, feel free to go to opsanalytica.com and you can chat us, or you can email us at info@opsanalytica.com.